Hi, I'm Joshua Gabriel Oluwaseyi. I am a 23-year-old Nigerian climate storyteller and an environmental activist. I am the founder of a nonprofit organization called Learn Blue. Learn Blue basically exists to inspire young people like yourselves on how you can take individual and collective actions that can help fight global issues that you're passionate about. That could be climate change, global warming, gender equality, you name it. I'm so excited to join everyone here today, albeit virtually, to talk about a core theme, something that's quite near and dear to my heart, which is sustainability and the role that young people play in environmental advocacy. About 5 years ago, I started my nonprofit Lemblu, which I just talked about, because I was diagnosed with something called allergic rhinitis, which is doctor speaks for a disability that's quite similar to asthma, which most of you might be familiar with, but not as severe. I was diagnosed with allergic rhinitis after I was exposed to fumigants and pesticide for a long period of time. And as a Gen Zer, my next instinct was amount of people are probably allergic in Nigeria. Like, is that even a big deal? And so I Googled, what are the impacts of allergies or air pollution in Nigeria? And to my surprise, over 100,000 people were dying every year from air pollution related causes. And as an 18, 19-year-old, my next sort of instinct was to do something about it. Months before I learned about my diagnosis, I had been in an event similar to this one, really, called a Teens General Assembly, where as an 18-year-old, I was amongst other 18-year, 19-year, 16, 17-year-olds for about a week or an entire weekend, if I recall correctly. And in this weekend, we're exposed to teachers, we're exposed to speakers, we're exposed to workshops from people who were also teenagers, who were making impacts in their communities, the people who were fighting, taking climate action, but people who were fighting against female genital mutilation, the people who were building books in prisons, you name it. And for me, as an 18-year-old, my first thought again was, oh my God, I really want to be like these guys. And after this event, for months, I was finding a way to be like them, to make change, to make impact. But I didn't really decide to focus on environmental advocacy or climate action until I was diagnosed with allergic rhinitis, and I was like, oh, so I've got a problem, and it's something that's quite personal for me. I lived in Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. I school in Benin City now. And if you know one thing about Lagos, the air quality is really, really bad. And so, pretty much every single day that I live in Lagos is a threat to my health. And so I had to wear nose masks before nose masks became a thing in 2020. Um, Learning about my allergies, I found a mentor on Facebook and I decided to found a non-profit organization, which is Lemblu, over 5 years ago now. And the goal of the non-profit was quite simple. I decided that since as Africans, we can't really try to educate our elders on things that they can do to help the environment, why not focus on my peers, Gen Zers, young people? And so, Lemlu was created with the singular aim of working with young people, my peers, Gen Zers, that I can easily relate to, that I can easily reach on social media, and telling them why climate awareness or why climate action is important and creating climate awareness, but also letting them understand how simple it is to take action for climate change. And so, over the last couple of years, we've been able to organize cleanup campaigns in Lagos State, even. And I think one of the biggest sort of memorable moments for me in my work as an activist, storyteller, environmental advocate, and a young person is seeing how much power we as young people have in organizing movements, in mobilizing for action for climate. And the story again that goes with this one is in 2019, after I had founded my nonprofit, I was coming from an interview at NTA in Yaba, and just outside the studio, I saw what I called an eyesore, but which was basically an environmental issue in of itself. There was a waterway, a canal, where they sold food, and I had taken a photo of like this mess, which was just a lot and a lot of styrofoam plastic thrown into like a water body that had actually stopped the water from flowing properly. And I felt this was weird and wrong, and so I took a photo. And weeks later, I was commuting Lagos again, and I was heading towards the island, and I saw a similar eyesore. This was in Obalende. There's a bridge, or there are bridges there where people commute that links to Ikoyi, Lekki, the mainland, everywhere. And so it's a very busy place. It was hustling and bustling, which is the spirit of Lagos. Unfortunately, just where people sold food, people sold snacks, people hawked, people, did whatever they did and went about their day, there was a mess of non-biodegradable waste in a waterway or a gutter that pretty much led into the Lagos Lagoon. And I took a photo again. This was um, my sort of beginning of a campaign that went on for that still goes on to this very year, which we eventually called for a cleaner Lagos. I took these photos, and after weeks of just sort of sitting on them, I made a post on social media. On this post, I talked about how these two photos were taken from different places, even though they looked exactly the same. And I talked about why it's important that we care about the environment, not because Mother Earth needs it, which she does, but because it is personal. Humans are inherently selfish. Young people, not so much, but humans generally are inherently selfish. And what that means is we tend to only pay attention to things that affect us personally. If it doesn't, then why should I care? And so I created a tweet and I said, hey, this is a major issue, but not because it's bad for the environment, which it is, but because it affects us personally. If there was a flood, for example, because of the amount of debt and sewage and mixed with non-biodegradable waste that's in the water, it's easier to transmit waterborne diseases, which is very bad and very unhealthy. And then I talked about, similar instances where said flooding from blocking waterways could cause loss of lives, loss of property, and you name it. There are a lot of real life consequences to our actions as people because it was people who threw a lot of debt, a lot of non-biodegradable waste into this drainage channel in Obalende and even the one in Yaba. So there are consequences to the actions that we take as people, not just young people, but generally. And so my message or my goal with my tweet was to call attention to the fact that we're doing this every day and it should stop. And so we reached out to the government and the tweet went viral and we had a lot of people, over 100 people had seen the tweet in like a day, and we had a lot of people showing interest in helping to mobilize action to clean up this drainage. These are people who have worked, these are people who I've never met before, these are people who are, from different parts of Lagos. I think some persons even came in from Ogun State. We all came together and we cleaned up Obalende, right? We cleaned up Mautu eventually, and we cleaned up Yaba as well. Um, and in all of this, one thing I got exposed to really was just the immense power that we have as young people with our access to social media and information at our fingertips. And so, my summary or sort of reason for talking about this and telling you this story is to let you know just that the role that youth can play in environmental advocacy and in sustainability can vary from starting a movement, starting a non-profit like me, or just not throwing debt into that drainage channel in Obalende, for example. There are actions that we take in our everyday life, individual actions, that when it's taken up as a collective, because you're doing it and your friend is doing it and somebody abroad is doing it, it sums up into a massive amount of carbon emissions or power consumption or water waste or there's so many things that we do every day that seem insignificant, like leaving your shower on longer than you need to, or using the heater even though you don't need to, or plugging your phone even though it's full and wasting energy and things like that. Every single one of them culminates into actions that are at the detriment of climate change or climate, and of course in my case at the detriment of my health. um but going back to my cleanup, we were able to mobilize action and we cleaned up at least 40,000 pounds of non-biodegradable waste in just about under a month. And we reached over 2 million people on social media with the hashtag for a cleaner Lagos. That all started because I had seen an eyesore, I had taken a photo, I had made a tweet, and I had said, hey people, this is wrong. But it's not wrong because it's wrong, which it is. It's wrong because it affects you personally. And so you should put a lot of energy into ensuring that, this doesn't happen again. And so we made change, which is the reason why my non-profit's tagline really is change begins with us. It begins with us. Change can start with a simple action as turning off your light when you're going to bed at night, except you're scared of the dark, which is also very fine. Or again, turning off your tap when you're brushing your teeth and not, leaving it on for longer than you need to. I am so excited that I was invited to come give this talk to you. This was meant to be a presentation, but I don't think it quite fits the word presentation, seeing as there are no slides or, decks following my speech. But I am a storyteller and I prefer generally to talk to people in a semi-personal level and get you to understand why it's important that you've got a role to play in sustainability and environmental advocacy and how easy it is to be an environmental advocate. And I would leave it off by saying that young people, Generation Zers, we are the biggest volunteer generation in the world. We have the highest propensity to say yes to doing the right thing. This is statistically backed. So my generation, our generation, youth secondary school students actually, are more likely to, protest against bad a company that's, polluting the environment, take Coca-Cola or something. Or you're more likely to protest against fossil fuel because we are a community. We are something called, they call us the plurals. We talk about ourselves in plural form. We say we never say I. It's never about me, it's about a collective. So that's why Lemley focuses on individual and collective actions that fight against global issues. And so I hope this has been able to convince you. It's not a debate, not to convince and not to confuse you, but I hope this has been able to inspire you to understand that you have power. Your words have power, your tweets have power, your Instagram post can be what changes somebody's perspective on how they look at climate change or global warming or climate action or not even climate. When you talk about sustainable development, you think about gender equality, and when you think about that, you think about educational equality or inequalities or good health and well-being. There's so many things you could be passionate about that you could speak up for just because of how much access you have to information at your fingertips with social media and with YouTube and with Google. Um, this was supposed to be a 10 minutes sort of segment. I'm so sorry it's going to be longer, except to set it. But thank you all so much for listening to me. Again, I'm so sorry I'm unable to join you physically or and doing this virtually, but I do want to iterate that you can reach me. I think the event organizers will let you reach me pretty easily via social media on LinkedIn. If you've got a LinkedIn account, if you don't, you should get one. It's never too early. Or on Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform you're best, familiar with. Send me a message if you want to become an activist or an environmental advocate, and if you need help with that, I am more than happy to assist you. Again, thank you so much to the team for inviting me. Have an amazing rest of your event. Bye.